Kane Parsons and Curry Barker, Kane Parsons was directing this movie. He was 19, but he'd already spent more than 3 years working on videos on YouTube that had 50 million plus views. And Curry Barker, this movie was made for, much cheaper, made for $750K, little indie movie. It was snapped up at a film festival. Both of these directors and their films overperforming shows you that they're tied into what's in the zeitgeist. This is what's important. And this is what I've been saying for years when I say the indies will strike back. They're striking back. The future of Hollywood is indies. It always was indies. Even Spielberg and Lucas came from the indie world, and everything gets co-opted and corporatized and sanitized, which is now we get the final form of Star Wars is like a movie based on a TV show where the people making the movie look like they were on the phone when they made the movie. That's how little they seem to care. So I'm excited about this.
Oh, there goes Chris.
Yeah.
He's so excited he dipped.
Well, he was saying that he's excited about their success, and it gives him warm feelings inside, knowing that young people are succeeding.
Oh.
And that he wishes he was young. Oh, Chris, you're back.
Thank you. Thanks. Let me put that graphic up again. But if we go here, look at this from Business Insider. YouTube directors are beating Hollywood, beating Disney, and saving Hollywood. When you look at like what the budgets are, okay, the budgets for these movies. Let's bring Robert Meyer Burnett in. Hey, Rob, good to see you.
Hello.
Happy birthday, Rob.
We're talking about the absolute insane news. And this is not like here. Yes, I ended up in the back room. No, I was very excited. I have so many tabs open here. I can't keep track. But this success reminds me of when Out of Touch Hollywood. This is not the first time Hollywood has been out of touch. But people are tired of the sequels, prequels, midquels, name it, franchise slop. And back in the late 60s, early 70s, Hollywood was so out of touch with so much turmoil in the world. They were making musicals and they were bombing. And then Lucas and Spielberg came along, these new young Turks, including Coppola, and changed Hollywood. I really believe this is the beginning of the change. Any comments on this before Badger will read us the highlights of this story?
Yeah, well, this goes to what I said all last year. Hollywood is not the dream anymore. If you want to be a filmmaker, you don't need Hollywood to be successful. And these two guys proved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but yeah, I was going to say, I saw an interesting thing too. A bunch of people have been trying to say that Kane Parsons didn't direct this movie, and everybody's like, oh, he's only 19 years old. There's no way he could have done this. There's no way he could have, pulled this off. And I saw Mark Duplass, who's also in the film, who's a big indie champion and does all sorts of things connected to indie stuff. And he basically came out and was like, nah, they actually I think that part of why they brought me on was because I help a lot of these young directors and indie people and whatnot. And he was like, I didn't have to do anything. He's like, this dude took the wheel and ran with it. And that's what I think is kind of blowing everybody's minds, is that these guys, like both of these directors, are learning to operate so well and so scrappy on these small budgets for these YouTube things that it's like they can't even fathom them pulling it off on a large scale. And this is the type of thing that I think that Hollywood is going to have they're having trouble processing, because these people are earning their skill set on a platform like YouTube.
Yeah, we showed a video actually of Mark Duplass saying, hey, I was there. I've worked with young directors before. He directed me. And so we played that video last week. Look up the news clip that Atomic Glory just posted. But I'll say, and Rob, you can attest to this. When you meet someone that is a prodigy, and I've been around indie film long enough, 4 decades, to tell you, I've met some young filmmakers that were beyond. They were just the good kind of autism, that where you're just so laser focused that you're maybe beyond your years in some ways, and not what I'm concerned about with both these directors. They're going to get caught up with Hollywood, and George Lucas, being very smart, kind of saw that and got away from Hollywood to focus on his movies. Rob, you know a lot about that 70s film history.
Well, yeah, but what I was going to say, remember, both of these films were brought to us by Hollywood.
Right.
They were not. So you had, first of all, Curry Barker's movie was a sensation at Toronto, and Focus Features bought it for $15 million. Yeah. So they knew what they had. And then Backrooms, it's interesting because both Obsession was also a Blumhouse film, and then Backrooms was Atomic Monster, but Blumhouse and Atomic Monster have teamed up already. So you have the preeminent horror company that's made up of James Wan's Atomic Monster and Blumhouse bringing us both of these movies. So they knew, they knew what they had. And in the case of Kane Pixels, he's been making these Backrooms movies he's been using YouTube as his venue to show them, but he's been making these films for basically 5 years. He's basically since 2019, and he's done some really interesting things. I mean, he's made this entire mythology work. I mean, remember the Backrooms thing came from one photograph that was shot of I don't know if it was a Hobby Lobby or a Hobby Town. It was being remodeled, and that's where the original picture came from. And then it was memed out.
Store, I think the furniture store in Wisconsin.
Oh, it was a furniture store, and then it was memed out in 2019 with that beginnings of the lore. So Kane Pixels was making these videos for the better part of 5 years, 6 years even. So he was honing his craft and showing the world that, I can do this. And if you've ever seen him speak, his interviews, both of these directors are very articulate guys. And in terms of Backrooms, he has an 80-page Bible, and he knows where his story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he's made this movie work within the lore and within the thing that he's set up. And he has an end game for it too. He knows how he wants it all to end. So you've got to look at what I would look at Backrooms is a way to show how IP is well handled, whereas Hollywood hasn't been able to kind of figure out. You've got literally a passionate filmmaker who spent the last 5 years of his life making these movies, and someone in Hollywood said, well, we should have him translate what he's doing and see what he can do. Let's see what the kid's got. If you've ever seen that Jamie Foxx thing about Ed Sheeran. But it's pretty cool. I mean, I would say this is exactly what Hollywood's looking for. And in the case of Curry Barker, he made a zeitgeist movie in the sense that you hear about how Gen Z can't date, they have no connections, no one's getting laid, and he made a movie about that very thing, about all this anxiety and what we hope can happen and how it can go horribly awry. So looking at Obsession's box office and people going, you finally have somebody from Gen Z making a movie about Gen Z's experience, which is something that we're not getting. We're expecting the younger generation of kids, they were the people that always made Halloween popular or Phantasm popular or Evil Dead popular back in the day because they were new to that generation. And lately we've been getting all this elevated horror, and some people love Ari Aster. You hear about Curry Barker talking about Ari Aster being a huge, and Hereditary is the influence on the new Gen Z horror filmmakers, as it should be. And so I think it's pretty exciting. And if you look at YouTubers, if you look at the Philippa brothers too, who made Bring Her Back and Talk to Me, or Talk to Her, they too cut their teeth making YouTube videos. YouTube is just a training ground for filmmakers that don't have to go spend exorbitant amounts of money going to USC. And yet some of them have years of work behind them before they've been discovered by Hollywood. So I think it's great.
Yeah, and I just heard an interview with Peter Chernin on the Town podcast where he talks about discovering Kane and gets into he knew what he was doing. They bet on him. It's all about the tone and just how much confidence they had in him. He really is a prodigy. So
Yep.
I'm excited. I'm excited because this proves that corporate slop. We don't like corporate slop. And shout out to you, quick aside, Rob. Not only the snazzy sunglasses, but your trilogy of streams last week about Star Wars are required viewing. I watched all 3, and they were great. They were great.
Well, thank you.
So,
I'm only
you
wearing
really
these because
wouldn't-
my
anyways.
readers, broke my readers, and this is the last. I never use these, but they're reading glasses. But Chris, I really wanted also to say that there are other people in Hollywood, like producer Roy Lee, discovered Zach Kreger, and Zach Kreger began his career making comedy shorts and
Yeah.
putting those up on YouTube as well. And then he wrote his script, and Roy Lee found Barbarian. So I would say that Barbarian should also fit in amongst the new wave of YouTubers. It's kind of not unlike what happened in France with all the critics that wrote for Cahiers du Cinema, like
Yeah.
Truffaut and Godard, that then made the leap into filmmaking. So it's a really exciting time. I hope a lot of other brand new emerging filmmakers that have cut their teeth making videos, we're going to see a lot more of this. It could be a very exciting time to be alive in terms of being a film fan.
And please put in the chat your suggestions for Rob's jazz band. It's a jazz trio. There. But no, I do believe this is a movement. This is definitely like a punk rock DIY. Like it's, and what I love about this, because the screening I went to for Backrooms was packed. I mean, it was packed. Same with Obsession. Actually, what I loved was, I mean, I might have been the oldest guy in the room. I don't care.
I was definitely when I saw it.
But what I loved was the enthusiasm with which it was being. You could feel the vibe in the room. People were loving it. Not everybody loves Backrooms. People have nitpicks and critiques. That's fine. But not knowing anything about the lore or anything about the YouTube videos, I went in. I felt like I could dive right in. I think a lot of that due to Chiwetel Ejiofor. I've always loved him as an actor.
Me too.
He's underestimated, and he gets you into the story. You feel for him, his therapist meetings. So, not knowing anything, I loved it. And I think people who were into Backrooms before are loving it. What's in this story, Badger? Is there anything we haven't already said or been saying?
It's basically everything you just said.
Okay, good. But the point is of this story is people are acknowledging it. Like now, there are 2 big stories here. One is the collapse of franchises that audiences are tired of, and that is, and I'll agree with Gary has said this. Superhero movies aren't going away. They're going to make Spider-Man movies and Batman movies. They're the top 2. But connected superhero universes may not survive. So make of that what you will. And I think Star Wars, it's tired. So we've got the franchise IP, the death of franchise IP, and I don't blame it, because why would the fans of Backrooms care about a sci-fi series that I grew up with? Okay.
Right.
That's what I've been saying. I've
Yeah.
been saying that for years, man. It's like it's 50 years old, and I love it, and you guys love it, but I can't get my kids into it. As much as I love it, I can't get my kids into the old stuff because it wasn't made in their generation. It doesn't feel like something that their peers are discussing. When we grew up, we were talking about Star Wars, playing Star Wars on the playgrounds. That's what we were doing as kids. These kids want something that's similar to that. Something that we're all talking about that belongs to us. It was made in our generation. It was made not necessarily for us, but, by someone in our same age group with us in mind. So it's doing exactly. And I love the fact that both of these are happening on the same weekend. All right. So it's a clear contrast where you see the indie films taking off, young audiences back in theaters in a way that we haven't seen in a while, and Star Wars completely falling off the side of a map. And as much as that hurts for me to say that, it needed to happen. I think we've seen this. It's been a long time coming. The IPs we're tired of IP. IP slop is just getting on everybody's nerves. So it was good that this happened at the same time in the same weekend to make this stark contrast between the two situations.
Well, I got to see this. This is from Variety. Kane Parsons talks about what's next for him after Backrooms. And Badger, why don't you just read this in Kane Parsons' voice?
I don't know what he sounds like. I don't want to leave YouTube behind. I immensely enjoy the work I've done there, and I feel creatively fulfilled by it in a way that proportional to what I've done with this film. I personally think there's merits because there's a lot of projects that I could never do outside of YouTube or outside of a more free-form internet multimedia container. So I wouldn't limit myself to just one spot, but I do think it's a way of saying that I've got a bit of a good thing going right now, and I want to utilize with the energy and positivity around this film. For people who are into it, I've got a contract and I've got a hold at my end, and that means I am definitely not done with Backrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Gen Z. I can't understand a thing he just said.
Well, I love this attitude. He still wants to do YouTube. Peter Churden also in that interview pointed out that the reason these YouTube filmmakers end up so good is for this reason, the feedback loop. This is what we've lost in television. The point of, and Rob, you've been going to film festivals a long time. When you go to a festival, one of the most eye-opening things you can do is have your movie unspool in front of an audience at a festival. You can feel where it works, where it doesn't work, where it should get better. The feedback loop is what drove television. You get the feedback in terms of ratings. Are people watching it? You get feedback in terms of, fan letters and message boards. Back to Twin Peaks in the 90s, there were Twin Peaks message boards. It was insane, the fandom over that. And the point is, we've lost the feedback loop with TV. What YouTubers have above all other creators is a feedback loop that informs them where they should go, where they can improve. And that is important. The point is, they're connected to the audience in a way that other people who make movies are not connected. And Brawler, you're of that. What are you,
Yeah,
Gen?
I am
Alpha?
Gen Z. I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z.
Wow, Gen Alpha. I'm not that young.
All
I'm still
right,
like
you
12
look
years
young.
old.
Yeah, but
No.
what were your thoughts seeing Backrooms?
Oh gosh. Well, Chris, I went with a group of my buddies. I like to invite people to the theater, try to get a large audience because I support the theater, and a lot of us young people, we love the theater. There's not many experiences left for us to do anymore, honestly. And honestly, when we saw Backrooms, we all played the games. That's how we were introduced to it, was the games in 2020. That's when we first tried them out. We loved the games. They are amazing. I understand there's a lot more than just the games, but that's how we knew it. And we were a little disappointed. I think we all sort of agreed on a lot of things. I believe that it is creatively brilliant. I really think it is. And I don't think you could make the Backrooms look any better. I mean, it was perfect. But I feel like something they kind of missed out on, which maybe is just Kane Parsons' interpretation of the Backrooms, is that, the games and the Backrooms in the games is a big side of it is the creature feature. And I felt like I was really disappointed that wasn't really that prevalent in the movie. In the games, the Backrooms are horrifying, obviously, because it's an endless maze of halls and walls, and it's all very familiar yet distant, and you're isolated, right? But, what makes it that much more terrifying is that there is a horrifying, unpredictable monster that isn't exactly chasing you around, but it is sort of on its own path, and it's going to stumble into you. And that cat and mouse routine, it's not the typical cat and mouse routine that It's very unformulaic, unpredictable, and it makes for a really intense sequence. And I thought I thought we would get more of that. A lot of people thought we were going to see those characters we know from the games in the movie as well. That obviously wasn't the case. And also another part of it, which I believe a lot of young people are disappointed about this, is their base for knowing the Backrooms is the games. They're very popular. Mm-hmm. They're very accessible. They're super cheap. They're like $5, and they really blew up in 2020. Is that, there's a problem solving angle to the Backrooms too. It's not just, you fall ass backwards out of the back rooms. You know, you sort of fall ass forwards into it. But a lot of the time there's like a problem solving angle where there's a puzzle you need to solve. There's like a method to the madness. And I felt like that area of the backrooms was missing. And for me as a gamer enjoying the backrooms, those are very important components of the backrooms experience that I thought were a little void in the film.
The thing is, though, well,
go ahead, Bob.
Kane Parsons, what he was doing, Kane Pixels was doing, was not that.
Yeah.
So there's kind of different tracks of this whole backroom thing, but Kane Pixels has created, he has like 3.2 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. So what he was building out was more of this existential cosmic horror dread that wasn't part of the games. And so he's definitely going in his own direction and was interested in kind of a different element than the gaming element. But I think you're right to say that it's because it's different things to different people. But he was definitely going toward in a different realm. Because I thought the last shot of this movie of Backrooms was incredibly haunting, especially the build up to it. I mean, it was true to me. It was existential cosmic horror, which is something I really, really love. And I was shocked by the end, and not shocked in a more in a sense of dread that he
devastated.
Yeah, it was so awesome, and I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that from this movie.
It's weird. It's almost like the Backrooms concept is open source.
Yes,
so you
it
have
is.
the game lore, then you have Kane Pixels lore. So that's where I got confused because I looked up videos. I wanted to learn about it, and so gaming stuff came up. Kane Pixels stuff came up. There's a whole, but I love the fact that it's open source.
And I think that I was just going to say, I think that that's kind of where he's run into an issue, is that the audience fan base is so fragmented from all these different interpretations. And the fact that like a lot of it was from the creepypasta, like subreddit stuff where all this started. And a lot of that audience even has like very specific opinions on the rules of the backrooms and how all this works. And so it's like, he was going to be up against that issue either way, because there are so many different types of right, exactly, 4chan stuff. Yeah. So there's so many different fan bases for it. He was going to deal with that component of people being like, oh, this isn't my backrooms, because there are so many different versions of it.